know what that sound means? It's time for Momentous Live Special Edition, coined by none other than Gray Williams. Also with us today, to his right or left, depending on which way you're looking at it, is the lovely and talented...
It's me! Hello, I'm Tasia. Nice to see you all.
Not Mario? And to one direction or the other, I got it wrong last time, I'll just do this, is...
It's me, Mario. Will Silver.
And I'm Tristan Jutra. Special edition of Momentous Live because we had a special event today. It's the 5th most wonderful time of the year. So there's Christmas, there's back to school according to Staples, and then there's, of course, there's the iPhone event in September from Apple, and then there's WWDC in June. So, you know, a spring event. Does that qualify? The 5th most wonderful time of the year? Are we keeping score at home? Anyway?
Yeah, spring loaded, I believe, was our day today. Which, you know, spring loaded on 420.
Loaded.
macOS Weed coming this year.
Where's Craig Federighi when you need him? So we had a great assortment of products and a little bit of services announcements presented by Apple today in their pre-recorded keynote format, which we've enjoyed for the last few Apple events in these pandemic times, as opposed to trotting people out on stage live and having way more demos than anyone really wants. So they're sticking with the formula, and it seems to be working pretty well. And any other vendors have yet to really match their production values there. But so today we have a few things. There were Apple AirTag finally announced after probably over a year of speculation. We had new Apple TV news, iPad Pro, and we'll start off with a new iMac with all sorts of interesting, fun new details brought to you by the lovely and talented Tasia. Tell us all about the new iMacs, Tasia.
Yeah, I'll do like the major rundown points for you all in case some of you missed it and weren't glued to your screens like we were. So they announced the all-new redesigned iMac today, and it features their in-house M1 chip. This is like, I think, probably the biggest deal for all of us. So what that allowed Apple to do inside the iMac is essentially shrink all of the internal hardware. So there's a smaller logic board, there's like a new thermal system. So it basically can keep it cool with 2 like smaller fans. To be clear, like how tiny this thing is, it's 11.5 millimeters deep and weighs less than 10 pounds. It's just like, I mean, it's crazy. So the M1 chip is going to presumably make the iMac run faster. So it'll improve like some machine learning and all kinds of things like that. And it's going to enable the use of iPhone apps directly from the iMac screen. So to the specs that everybody really cares about. It's 24 inches. It's a 4.5K Retina display with 11.3 million pixels. Hello, how many more pixels could you want? So the cool thing though, they've improved the camera. So now they're gonna have a 1080p camera feature that's got an auto white balance and also noise reduction. And what they're calling tone mapping to make you like look even better. It's got like a new mic system inside this iMac that will reduce, you know, feedback noise so that you sound better too, which clearly we all could use. But let's talk about ports because y'all know I love my ports. I'm a girl after many ports, and this does not have many ports. This will be an uh-oh for me, okay? So the base model has only 2 Thunderbolt USB 4 ports. That's it. There's only 2. That's it. So then the mid-range and like the higher end, the top end models have a couple more USB 3 ports. They've got the gigabit Ethernet port, all that kind of good stuff, right? That you're used to. In terms of RAM, it's kind of standard like 8 gigabytes, which for me, like obviously I'm not running an M1 chip. it's just not enough power to do any type of editing. I'm sure gamers probably think the same. So you can upgrade to 16 gigs, but you know, the whole M1 chip, it's supposed to make them run faster. So I guess that's to be seen once we get these in our hot little hands. Storage wise, I give it another thumbs down. Sorry guys, but like, this is weird for me. Even though I use mostly external hard drives and I really don't use a lot of like my MacBook hard drive, so I wouldn't theoretically use a lot of the iMac hard drive. It's like 256 gigabytes and you can go up to like 512 gigabytes. It's nothing to me, but we can debate this later, I suppose, because there's a couple more things we want to touch on. They have a Magic Keyboard. It's got Touch ID available, and they have a Magic Mouse and Magic Trackpad in, wait for it, matching colors. And speaking of colors, everybody, I am sporting all of the colors that the new iMac comes in. So it's like blue, green, pink, silver. There's upgraded, like the upgraded models, you can do yellow, orange, and purple, I think. Is that right for the upgraded? Yeah. So base models start at $1,299 US dollars. And then the other models, if you want like the better colors, I guess better colors, I don't know, $1,500 US. And they're going to be available in the second half of May is what they're kind of saying right now. So listen, there's some good, there's some bad, there's some ugly. I think credit where credit's due, okay? Design-wise, what a feat. Truly, like to fit all of that tech into something that's like the thickness of my hand, maybe thinner, I don't know, I didn't measure it, remarkable. However, I'm really torn about, you know, the lack of ports. Like they're so thin, put it this way, like the headphone jack isn't even in the back anymore because it's too thin. So now it's going to be moved to the side. Like it's crazy, which the color thing I think is what gets me. I love the current iMac in space gray. I think it is, if sex was in a machine, that is what that machine is, okay? It is so sexy. These colors, you know, guys, is it enough? It's like a throwback, right? Like you guys remember like in the 90s, all those cute little Apple iMac cubes in all the colors. I'm having major throwback vibes. Are colors enough? Like, is this what people want now? I don't understand. You know, I could go on a whole diatribe of colors because the iPhone 12 is also coming in purple now, and that was the massive announcement. Which is like, is that such an announcement? Is this what we should be focusing on? Is this creating enough FOMO that Apple used to create for us all? You know, where we feel like I hadn't felt it in a while from Apple, and then the 11 Pro came out, and I was like, everybody out of my way, I'm getting that immediately. And now I feel like I'm back again into, I don't know. I'm definitely not getting this iMac. Thoughts?
So I gotta say, was Graham trolling Tasia with the playing of the original
Yes.
1984 Mac ad there? Like the dull gray or beige existence brought to you by IBM.
It's not the
You
iMac
could tell he was
Pro.
exploding.
Listen, I stand by what I said, okay? That space gray iMac.
So here's the thing, though. There will be a space gray iMac that is coming, and that one is going to be for you, but it's going to be the 27 or the 34, whatever it is that they come out with. Because if you notice right now, they've separated their lines a little bit, right? There's the MacBook Air, which is sort of like the cheap and cheerful. There is the 13-inch MacBook Pro, which is their first M1 portable of the Pro line, and then they've got the iMac 24-inch 4.5K. Now they've already told us that they're going to kill the iMac Pro, right? She done. So what's got to fit in the middle here? The Mac Pro is still too much and too far away. So we're going to see later this year probably a 16-inch MacBook Pro, and we're going to see a X-inch iMac. And I look at it this way. What did the colors cost you? Nothing. A little bit of happiness. Look at the two of us. Come on.
But do you want the colors? That's my point. Like, is that enough to be like, I'm gonna buy this machine because I can have it in purple?
I'm gonna give you the use case. My parents right now own a 2011 iMac. Right, this thing is chugging along on 4 gigabytes of RAM, and they're just, my mom and dad are just good with it. But it no longer gets software updates. It doesn't do any of the stuff anymore. And really, like the aesthetic, do all of our houses need to have these uniform gray computers? I look around, and this house, like, we've got lots of white, lots of black, lots of gray, and there's this beautiful pop of teal. Right, that's kind of the color scheme of this house. If I had a use case for this iMac, I would absolutely buy the teal model. The ports are kind of neither here nor there, because I think about it right now, and I've got wires sticking out of my MacBook Pro, but they're all running into remember the beautiful hub that you just bought? I've got a Thunderbolt dock from Belkin, and it's like, do I always want to be reaching around behind the machine? And the thing that got me today was the addition of the Ethernet port into the power block. And they said this, they got this beautiful magnetic power connector, goes right in. The headphones go in the side, which I think is brilliant, because how many times have you tried to reach around the back of your Mac and you're sitting there and you're like, I'm scratching this. I'm scratching it right now. I'm scratching it.
You're trying to find
the side,
it.
It's like, yeah. It was like the SD card slot in the back. You're like, really? Oh, okay. When do I ever go back there? And so the Ethernet port in the power brick. And so now if you can think about it, like, you've got maybe one cable coming out for the USB going into some Thunderbolt dock, this beautiful power cable. And now the rat's nest that I'm looking at down in front of me right now, you don't have to deal with anymore. I am so in love with this little thing. I want to have a use case for it. I don't, but I want one.
But that's my point. Users like us, we don't need it.
This isn't our iMac though. This is my mom and dad's iMac, and I literally just sent them the Pantone and was like, pick your colors, find which one matches the room. I will buy it for you.
But that's exactly the thing, to your point, Tasia, is that, this isn't for us. And I think also when you're a big company like Apple, obviously, you got to be a little country, a little bit rock and roll. You got to be a little bit, you got to be a little bit of both, right? You got dual audiences. So the colors definitely bring in sort of the mass audience and more casual users, if you want to say that. And then some of the other devices, that they announced here, but also some of the other things maybe they have down the road, like a 16-inch MacBook Pro with an M1 chipset. That's not going to be Graham's or Gray's parents. Like that's going to be, us, right? So, and that's not going to come in teal or fuchsia. It's so, I mean, and you also got to know your audience to a certain extent. I don't know if I told you guys this story. I was in a London Drugs for a very short emergency run a couple of weeks ago, and I always sort of cruise by some of the tech even just quickly, because it just feels good to be around a bunch of tech again.
Hold the phone just for a sec. Just to clarify for anyone not from Western Canada, London Drugs is a drugstore that for the last 35, 40 years has been selling computers and stereo equipment and high-end photography equipment and all sort of stuff.
Yes.
But you can pick up while you're waiting for your prescription to get filled.
Yeah, pick up your vinyl, your ear medication, and a Canon camera as well while you're at it. But,
and some tuna. Why not?
Yeah.
They got everything. So please go on.
Yes. Speaking of which, I was there to pick up SodaStream cartridges and also cat food, and I happened just to go through for the technology. And so I'm going through the tech section, I'm looking at speakers, and behind me I can hear sort of an older woman, probably in her 60s or something, with presumably her daughter or a younger woman, talking to the sales representative who's showing her phones. And she says, "That's all well and good. What phones do you have in white?" That she's not looking for a phone. She's not looking for an iPhone or Pixel or something. She's looking specifically for any phone that's white. I'm looking in the color of white, not the type of phone like Android or iOS or anything like that. So I guess the whole story is that I think this is hitting a particular niche.
Fair.
Yeah.
What do you guys think of the look of it, though?
Honestly, like, I mean, so, and Tristan sent this to me earlier. He's like, but the chin and, you know, that little Jay Leno image, the bit's got to go somewhere, right? And so, and I've never really minded the chin, and that little pop of color I like. So that for me, like, and the thinness. Ooh. No, I will say this. If they do not come out with a space gray in the larger model, I'll be right there on the picket lines with you. I will be right outside of Apple headquarters going, come on.
Thank you.
I also have to say, I know this is kind of a stupid detail. The thinness is amazing. I've lifted a few of these before. I don't know, the ones maybe 7 or 8 years ago, I don't know if they had the souls of the damned in them or they were lined with lead, but they were so heavy. And 10 pounds sounds awesome compared to some of the ones from like 10 years ago. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it's just me and I need to work out more, but those ones were so heavy.
Do you even lift, bro? So the interesting thing about what Apple's doing here in terms of segmenting their markets is that these entry-level iMacs, these are 24-inch, and they've replaced the 21.5-inch, which hadn't been updated in a couple of years and were frankly embarrassing. They're gone from the Apple Store now. So we have the 24-inch replacing the 21.5-inch, and the lovely array of colors that directly match the presentation of the iPad Air, which have the same form factor as the iPads Pro, but available in all these wonderful colors. iPad Pro does not come in all these colors. So they're saving the monochrome only for the Pro lines, and the consumer, happy friendly, harkening back to the original or the second generation iMacs back in 1999 in all of those wonderful colors. So I think that's the play here, is that happy consumer products, nice, lots of colors. Pro products, austere, space gray, silver if you're lucky, and that's it. You don't want a lot of distractions. Now, to the Jay Leno chin part, I think the motherboard is tiny. I think there's plenty of room to fit everything in there, especially with the larger screen size. So I mean, it's going to be easy for people to pick on it. What's also interesting, no more Apple logo on the front. I mean, they're at the point now where the design itself is iconic. They don't have Apple logos on the front of iPhones, only on the back. Same with these iMacs, Apple logo only on the back. They're at the point now where people look at it and like, oh, that's an iMac. So that's that just shows you how far the brand has come over the years.
Now, with that chin though, the one thing that sure the motherboard is in there, but they've also got like dual radiators for the bass and a massive sound system that's got Dolby.
There's lots of room.
Do you really want your sound system behind your screen? Really? That's where you want to put that?
I don't want to use any built-in sound system, although it does have built-in speakers. 6 speakers built in. One of the other things is the keyboard. The new keyboard. It's got the Touch ID built in. Does it still have an eject button? That's the question of the day. Even though they haven't had physical media since 2011, no more eject button, but Touch ID, so you can authenticate right on the keyboard. Still not backlit though. I know some people would like, just like with the MacBooks, some people would like backlit. So some interesting stuff here. Again, probably not for us, but for lots of other people. And this is exactly what they're doing with the laptops as well. With the transition to M1, they're getting the consumer ones into people's hands, the iPad, the MacBook Airs, and the lower end MacBook Pros. And then the better stuff's coming for all the people who want to do the video editing and all that sort of stuff. Although they found the performance on the MacBook Pro and MacBook Air have been tremendous. It's just when you get into that upper tier of graphics, dedicated graphics work, that they start to lag behind. It's hard to compete with, dedicated NVIDIA video cards and that kind of stuff. Anyhow, so moving right along, speaking of iPads Pro, Will, what did you think of the update to the line? Like, you're an iPad user, I'm an iPad user. Oh, actually, before we move on, before we get to that, quick poll, rapid fire poll. If someone put a gun to your head and said, you got to pick one of these iMacs, what color do you want? Quick, Tasia.
Purple? I don't know. That's not what I want.
Purple.
Purple? Not teal? You changed your mind?
The blue's not a blue. It's not teal. It's a blue.
Oh, so we just shot a prisoner. You can't change your mind. All right.
I love my purple as well.
And Will.
I I think the orange looks kind of cool. I don't normally go that way, but
I'm
I
with
like
you.
that color.
I'm either the orange or the blue for me. Like I really like dark blue. I'm not sure if it would be quite dark enough for me, but if I want things to pop, the orange, train spotting orange. That's my favorite orange.
Considering
All
we've
right,
got a lot
Will.
of teal here, that's our blue-orange contrast. That's a good call.
Exactly. Get the color wheel.
Right.
All right, Will. iPads Pro. What do you think?
Well, you know, I might not be working out, but boy, did the iPad get a workout, because it is beefy. It is so powerful. It's crazy. So, I mean, the first thing is, there wasn't the 16-inch that I think, Tristan, you were saying had been rumored, or some people were talking about.
Yeah, maybe a 15. I think it could be fever dreams, right? Like it's been years
I think
we've been talking about that.
that starts getting into competing with the iMac or the MacBook Pro and stuff like that. So I think, you know, you're definitely tiptoeing into competing waters there. But we do have still the 11-inch display and 12.9-inch display, which is pretty big. The bezel is also a lot reduced than some of the earlier models, but I think very similar to past or the most recent versions. Still the space gray and the silver. But I think the sort of big thing here, the highlight, is that it's using the Apple M1 chipset, and that there's also 8 cores, 4 on the CPU and 4 on the GPU. And I think they're saying it's about a 50% increase in capability and speed and performance. And it's, I think, just a real workhorse. I think the other big thing is the Retina XDR display, which really gives, apparently, I mean, I haven't seen one, but they're claiming that it gives a very stunning experience. So, I mean, I think those are all huge pluses, huge upgrades. They're also saying there's an improvement to the cameras. I do have to say, at least in my iPad's a few years old now, but the cameras are pretty weak on that. So it does look like this is going towards things like the iPhone and things like that. So yeah, I mean, those are the main things. The other sort of, I guess, sort of cool visual is the Magic Keyboard with the sort of floating design and the backlit keys. Looks pretty badass, if you're asking me. But yeah, I mean, just all around, just a huge improvement in terms of power and speed and capability, it sounds like. So I'm on board. I mean, I have so many things I want to buy right now, but that's got to be up on the list.
Well, this is something, Will, that I think like I could see a use case for us all, because what Apple's doing, well, first of all, in that design you think is so sick. It's a mini iMac. Like, look at how it sits on that. It looks exactly like the iMac.
Yeah.
And frankly, the base storage is better.
Yeah.
So that tells me that Apple's looking at how we're all living and working.
Mm-hmm.
You know, how we're using these devices on the go, and doing it in a way where it is still something portable, because I ain't walking around with no 15-inch. I'll tell you that right now. That's my computer. Why would I, you know? But this is as powerful as one for certain things.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the design is there and the storage now is there, which is interesting, because I don't think many of us are really taking many photos or videos with it. I know we see all the people doing this, but you're storing a lot of other stuff on there probably now if you're working on the go, so you need that storage.
I'm just looking forward to how awesome Marvel Strike Force is going to look when I play it on this iPad Pro while I'm watching TV at the same time, which is my major use case for my iPad.
Honestly, I think once Will takes a look at the price, he might just go for an iPad Air.
Yeah, well,
that's
the thing. It starts at about $1,000 US, and we're not talking about the top end, which is, I think, is 256 gigabyte storage, which will get up to what, 1,200 if I'm remembering US.
Oh yeah, the prices all over the place. I think they start $799 for the 11-inch and $1099 for the 12.9-inch, and those are with the base storage, and then you can get the storage all the way up to, what's it, 2 terabytes now?
It's
Yeah,
2 terabytes.
2 terabytes now, which is like bigger than most storage on most people's laptops. So they're really going hard after maybe like the casual pro user, right? A lot of people are using these as video cameras with huge monitors on them. People are using them for gaming. Maybe 3 people are using them to develop AR applications. Apple is really touting the mini LED display that gave us that liquid retina XDR. So the new display technology in this. So and it's cool that they kind of kept things at the same price point, and they even threw 5G in there and Thunderbolt. So they're just packing all sorts of tech. And the higher you go in the range, then just the more you get. But then the prices, when you start speccing these things out in Canadian dollars, it's quite you can blow past $2,000 quite easily.
Well, I think I was just looking at the 2 terabyte model. It's $2,700 US.
Wow.
So that's
the 11.9.
So this is actually the interesting thing. The Canadian model for the iPad Pro is $999, right? And I paid 3 years ago. This is iPad Pro. I paid $1,500 out the door with this and the Magic Keyboard. And that's I think it's the 10 point whatever inch, 10.9, 10.7. And so looking at this, and I'm kind of looking at $999 for the 11 inch with 256 and Wi-Fi. It's not insane. And I say that because I have had more than one work trip or even actually work day where this has been my primary machine. Now, I do a lot of, I'm a strategist by day. I do a lot of writing. But there's also like what we're doing right now. I see my use case in this. Because when you're taking a look at that ultra wide angle camera with center stage, that's something that this Logitech StreamCam does. Does it all right. And it gets ripping hot and ripping loud. But everything that I'm seeing from the M1 is that it can handle the types of things that we are literally doing right now. And you don't get that kick it into overdrive video roar out of the machine. So I'm looking at this going the 12.9 inch with the ultra wide camera and the beautiful display and going, this is a work machine over here. This is a 2019 MacBook Pro fully decked out with 32 gigs of RAM. And I'm looking at this going, could you actually be my new daily driver? And I actually want to get my hands on one to see, because I think I might be able to. I'd still have this thing, in the back for, but maybe that's it. Maybe I get myself a beautiful blue or purple iMac. I've got the Pro to go with it. You know what? As an accessory to my iPad Pro, can you throw an iMac on there? That's a nice basket add-on.
That's Apple's dream. You just have all the things. Right?
I
just kind of do right now.
I just want to comment that my cat does come in space gray.
And that's what I prefer.
That's what I prefer. Yes.
Yeah. So, and to just for the folks at home, center stage is the feature of the ultra wide angle camera that will track one or more faces that are in frame, and so move around. It's got enough pixels in there to have a decent image with its sensor, and follow you around a little bit, because as you can see right now, even talking, I do a little bit of this, and a lot of people have their iPad in their camera when they're doing, in their kitchen when they're doing FaceTime with the folks or what have you. So there's little touches like that really step things up. Now, that being said, for most folks, the iPad Airs, which came out last year, are great. They're the same form factor as the current generations, the last couple generations of iPads Pro, and they come in all those wonderful colors, and they work with the same accessories, including the second generation Apple Pencil and the Magic Keyboard. So again, Apple has segmented the market. They've got the super basic iPad, and that's the one you get for your kid, right? That's the $399 US or $329 US one, I believe. And then a little higher, you go a couple $100 more, you get the iPad Air, which is a bit better for gaming and more productivity apps. And then if you're a pro, then you go to the iPad Pro. So there's something for everyone. And this is, this has been the kind of thing that Apple has played over the last 11 years, and even longer for things like the iMac and whatnot. When Steve Jobs came back in, was it 1996, 97? Some folks might remember the quadrant he drew out. Said Apple should have 4 products, right? There's at the time there was two types of notebook computers, two types of desktop computers, right? We had the iBook, the PowerBook, and the iMac and the Power Mac, and that was it. And people were like, hallelujah, but they got rid of like 36 different models of Macintosh Performas and all the stuff you saw languishing in the corners of your local Best Buy. They simplified, they got out of the laser printer business, they got out of the digital camera business, simplified. Now, over the years, Apple has, now that they're in a position of strength, they've expanded their offerings to meet different price points and different markets. And that's what we're seeing with the segregation, the different lines of iPads and notebooks and iMac. So it's interesting to see, from a historical perspective, how all of this evolves, because it used to be so simple. And it's getting more complicated again, especially when you add all the different SKUs in there. From a retailer perspective, it's like, oh, we have all these different tiers of performance and storage and memory and all these kinds of things. Plus, we have all these colors. Like, that's an inventory nightmare. Now, luckily, thanks to Tim Cook and his supply chain mastery, they've managed to figure out a lot of that stuff. So you can get stuff reasonably quickly. And some things are special order items and whatnot. But yeah, it's interesting to see this all play out over time. It's a very different Apple than it was, say, 25 years ago.
But just going back to that quadrant made a whole lot of sense for them when they were coming from an unfocused space. And when you look at it this way, it also those they put up walls between who it is that you are and what it is that you do. Whereas when you look at Apple's line right now, it's a series of Venn diagrams. And that consumer choice means, this is important to me, so I'm going to get that. But if I'm more of a generalist, I can fit into a couple of different categories, and maybe my price point is here, and maybe I sacrifice a feature, or maybe I will pay a little extra and get that piece right there. And I think it really, for a lot of consumers, it's freedom that to either have this thing or to aspire to that thing. It really comes down to, like, what do you want to do with it? That iPad Air has an A14 Bionic processor in it, which is the same processor in the iPhone 12, iPhone 12 Pro, I believe. And so you're looking at that, and it's like, there is now this level of performance that developers can expect, which is great. And when that came out, it was like, what the hell are they going to do with the Pro? Because there was a time there where that iPad Air was more powerful than the Pro. And this was the last 6 months. And the Pro was still a great value because it had all these other features. But throwing the M1 in there, suddenly it all makes sense. The A14 is your level set, and then if you are truly using it for professional purposes, there's the Pro for you.
This is also where these type of things also kick my ass, because I think like with a lot of you guys, I just want to spec it out, 2 terabytes, all of it. And I do the same a bit with, like, sorry to bring this to something else, but mixers. And I have to have a hard talk with myself that I'm not a professional DJ. I don't DJ in clubs 5 days a week, and I don't need it totally specced out. I don't need the touchscreen interface. There's no use for it. I may want it, but there's a difference between wanting something and using something. So this is always with technology that I have the problem with. I love the performance. I love the techiness of it. I want to get it fully specced out. I want the crazy Mac Tower, the Mac Pro that's $40,000 fully specced out. When am I going to use it?
Yeah. Tasia, where does an iPad fit in your life?
I have the same one Graham has, actually, and it's a bit of both. I mean, obviously there hasn't been much travel lately, but when I was traveling, that was part of my work life, to be honest. And now I use it for all my home workouts because not traveling, not doing too much work, but I do still actually do a bit of work from home on it. I found I leave my MacBook in here. I bring my iPad, I can answer my emails and do all that kind of stuff. So that's why I feel like this is something I could see myself getting, but I go down the same rabbit hole as Will, where I want it specced out, and then it's like, well, I've dropped more money on this than I spent on my MacBook Pro, so I'm not gonna do it.
That's how they get you.
Yeah, that's how they get you.
And I'm the same. I've actually found myself using an iPad more and more over the last year or two. I'm actually using my wife's old iPad Air 2 that's, I think, going on 5 or 6 years now. And it's starting to show its age a little bit, but I've got a Clamcase Pro keyboard, which is a Bluetooth keyboard. It's a little flaky, but it gets the job done most of the time. And there's lots of stuff that I bang out on there as opposed to having a full laptop on the couch. So back, going back to 1998, I was like, I'm the one device guy. I'm not even going to have a desktop computer. I'm just going to have a PowerBook, and it's going to be totally, spec'd out to the max, and that's all I'm going to use ever. For portable and for desktop with external keyboard, mouse, monitor. And then as time's gone on, I've been sliding back in. It started with the smartphones. Well, I actually started with iPod and then smartphones, eventually iPhone, and then got an iPad when it came out. Here we go. And now just got an iMac last year. And it's like, oh, I kind of enjoy having different types of devices for different situations, and it just adds to the clutter. It's great.
One of my goals is how many screens can I get between myself and the television? So, so a pad, a phone, a watch. How many more screens can I get?
I tell you, those
glasses are
iMacs,
next.
Yeah.
And to be fair, iMacs don't do a great job of measuring your fitness workouts. So you got to have a variety of devices once in a while. So now speaking of more devices in our homes, there was a bit of an update to Apple TV as well. What do you think of that, Graham?
It's interesting. I'm going to throw myself over here so we can chat for a little bit. Apple TV. This is actually probably one of my most used Apple products. I am a huge fan of this device because with all the smart TV software out there, most of it is absolute hot garbage. Right, I've got a TCL over there, and I've gone through the interface and whatnot. It is hot garbage. So the Apple experience with the Apple TV is so much better, except for one goddamned thing, and that is the now previous Siri Remote, which I will bid good riddance to. This thing was it's my most hated Apple product. Let me see if I can bring up a picture of this here. So.
Didn't it look like a Star Trek phaser or something? Or
yeah,
it was. Let's throw to camera 2 here.
It was the epitome of Johnny Ive run amok. You have a device where you couldn't tell which was up and which was down.
And so actually, Tristan for Christmas one year got me a silicone sleeve for this thing because concrete floors, right? You drop this thing on the ground, it is trashed. It's got a glass screen. Who put glass into a remote, Johnny? And it was terrible, right? And navigating, I don't know if you guys have tried to navigate with one of these things. It's haphazard at best. Some people are like, I've got precision control. I'm like, congratulations, go fly your fighter pilot. Just get out of here. And so this thing was an absolute nightmare. And so I'll bring you again over to camera 2, so we can take a look at the beautiful new.
Before we do, go to me, Graham, because I got something I'm holding up to the camera, which is the Apple TV remote before they destroyed it. And this was elegant, simple, and all they needed to do was add a couple of buttons, including the Siri button, and that would have been just fine. But they wanted to have the touch-sensitive surface, which they did. And now what they've done is kind of the love child of the old-timey remote, and then the trash remote, and now we've got...
Y'all ready for this?
Trash remote.
There it is. There it is right there. This is me spending $250 to get a new freaking remote. They'll probably sell it separately, and I could probably use it with my old machine, maybe, potentially. But my partner's mother is actually getting her Apple TV 4K, and I am getting the new Apple TV 4K for this thing alone. I can't tell you the number of times I have sat down on that other remote, and because you just tap the edge of it, so congratulations, you're at the spoiler in a Shyamalan film, and you're like, really? That's what we decided to do with this thing. It was horrific. So what we have now is this beautiful touch-sensitive pad at the top that is not glass. We have buttons that actually make sense. A play pause button that makes sense. A mute button. Imagine that. Volume up and volume down. A back button, a power button that will control your television. And on the side, just like where your power button is the Siri Remote, the Siri function. So this to me is... I am so in love with this upgrade. I have said that this was my most hated Apple feature, or Apple product, pardon me, and I am so glad to see it go. So it seems strange, $250 for that. I will show you one other cool feature if you'll stick with me for just a second here, and that is this guy right here. So I worked for a home automation, home integration firm for a little while. And so one of the things that we would do is ISD calibration. And so this is basically, you're looking at high-end color calibration where they would send a calibrator into your house with expensive pieces of equipment so that they can basically tune your TV so that it looks beautiful. Now with HDR,
camera
oops,
and
Daisy, this is actually a pretty big deal. This is how this works. You basically take the camera, you put it right up against the screen, and it's using the screen and the cameras to measure the color in your television. This to me is absolutely fantastic. So I'm stoked about this because this is a feature again that like you would spend hundreds of dollars on to get somebody to come in and properly calibrate your television. I'm sure there are folks out there that are going to say it's not ISD level calibration, and I'm going to guarantee that it's pretty close. You know, they would not float a feature like this with the capabilities of the Apple TV and the capabilities of the iPhone. I'm not a betting man, but if I were, I'd say this is probably pretty darn close, and I'm pretty stoked about it.
That's pretty amazing. I remember also those color spiders. Do you remember those things where you would be like almost like a heist movie, be like a suction cup with like things going on other sides of the screen,
just to get like, pretty color on your television.
Yeah.
And so, and Gray, they actually updated the specs of the Apple TV itself just a little, right?
They did, yeah. So it's now got an A12 Bionic processor in there, which, you know, again, for console gaming on the TV is going to be good, right? This thing was really never meant to take down the PlayStation 4 or the Xbox One, but with the A12 Bionic, it's at that level. That's a previous generation of console power at this point. If you're looking for true console gaming, you're probably buying an Xbox One S or an Xbox One Series S or Xbox One Series X or a PlayStation 5, if you can find one somewhere. But for the folks out there who have Apple Arcade, this is going to be, you know, better frame rate, smoother action. And this was actually the big thing as well, is the A12 Bionic also means that it can do high frame rate, high dynamic range content. So high dynamic range gives you a beautiful range of color that a lot of televisions are capable of now, up to 93% of the color spectrum. And at 60 frames per second, if you're watching sports, live sports in particular, this is going to look amazing. It's also going to be good for gaming again. In high quality with higher frame rates. So that 60 frames per second is important to a lot of people. So this should unlock that feature.
Well, I, for one, I'm pretty excited because it's been almost 4 years since they've updated the Apple TV 4K. So we have one of those in our house, and we've got an Apple TV, the HD one, a couple of those, and even an Apple TV 3 kicking around as well. So what happens when we get a new Apple TV, there's a shuffle that moves along, you know, in the hierarchy of TVs in our house. Because by law, in our municipality, you need to have 2.5 TVs for every person living in a house. So that's how it works. We have this whole parade of Apple TVs that cycle through our televisions in our place. So hopefully one of these will take its rightful place on our primary television, and just, you know, the improved performance will be nice. It's got I think they've updated to Bluetooth 5 from Bluetooth 4. Just, you know, some little things like that. Wi-Fi 6 from the previous generation of Wi-Fi, the 802.11 AC, which I guess was Wi-Fi 5 after they rebranded it. Same configurations, 32 and 64 gigs. A lot of people don't see the point in the 64 gigs, but again, if you're spec crazy, you just get it, because especially if you download lots of apps and games and stuff like that, you never want to run out of room. So
this is
Apple's bad with money.
Well, this is Apple's cheapest storage upgrade. $229 Canadian for the 32 gig. You can double your storage for $20. I think that is unheard of in the Apple world. Take my $20. Just take it and run with it.
So Tasia and Will, neither of you are Apple TV people yet, are you?
No.
Are you seeing anything here that would tempt you? I mean, you can do so much with them nowadays.
No.
Well,
let me guess. You got a Chromecast, Tasia?
Chrome,
Listen.
if you want to.
Actually, when Andrea Bocelli put on his Easter concert for the world, yeah, I did Chromecast that directly from YouTube to my TV. I will not be judged.
I mean, my wife and I are interested in getting an Apple TV, or at least we've been discussing it. Just, you know, in the past, we've been mostly, because we have both an Xbox and a Xbox One and a PlayStation 4, and, you know, looking at possibly upgrading one or both of those at some point. But those are also sort of hybrids, right? Like they've got all the streaming services in them, but sometimes, you know, it's not the most intuitive interface. It's not meant for that. It's kind of like one of these add-ons with the video game systems, and we love the video game systems. And even, you know, in the past, I've had some issues with like the MLS app didn't always create the most recent version for the Xbox, and just little things like that in the past, and some of that stuff's worked out. But you know, now we're kind of looking at, well, you know, the Apple TV hasn't been updated for a while, or at least a major update. So this is definitely making it more interesting for us, because we're looking at maybe getting away from using a video game system as a you know, the streaming device of choice.
Gotcha. I you know, as someone who's had like pretty much every generation of Apple TV, maybe I have a problem. I'm excited about it. But the thing that breaks my heart about these later tvOS versions is Apple, in order to get more buy-in from developers, especially those making the apps for the various streaming services, they kind of abandoned the strict guidelines for the design of the apps. They used to be on the old Apple TVs, they were a lot more consistent for navigation, and now they're all over the place. And honestly, some of them are just hot garbage. You know, just especially trying to use it with the trash remote, as we discussed earlier. So we'll see if they'll be a little easier to use with this this sexy new remote now. But you know, that's the thing, is like you open up things to get developers on board, you know, by not being so strict, but then you get, you know, quality issues. And don't even get me started. That's a whole other show. So moving right along, our last significant item that Apple announced, again, after months, if not years of speculation, and we touched on this a little bit in our previous episode talking about the network that they've set up for this, Apple finally announced their AirTag, which is a tracking device for pretty much anything you want. It looks like a little keychain, and you can customize it with your own emoji. It's $29 US. You can get a 4-pack for $99. And if anyone has used a Tile, or there's another one called Tracker, TRACKR, I believe. The whole idea is that something goes missing, and you can use this just distributed network of devices, people using the software for these trackers on their phones. And by talking to each other in an anonymous fashion, you would be able to narrow down the location of your device. So we were doing this for iPhones and iPads and Macs with the whole Find My protocol, and even with a little lesser success with AirPods. Now Apple is stepping in after opening up their network to third-party developers, you know, because antitrust, you know, they can say, what, anyone can make these things. It's not just us. But the difference is Apple has 1 billion plus devices out there. So this network, depending on where in the world you are, Apple is stronger in, say, North America and some parts of Asia than it is, say, in Europe. It depends where you are. You've got way more nodes on the network helping you find your devices. And in Apple's photographs, you've got, you know, silly examples of using these as earrings and whatnot. But of course, Tej will be happy. They come in a variety of colors. Disappointingly, they don't seem to match the colors of the new iMacs, but you can, I mean, they're a little darker. But you can get brown. That looks exciting. That's so. I, for one, am interested. I had a Tile. It was cool. It's one of those things. It's kind of like insurance. It's not sexy. It's like taking vitamins versus medication. It's one of those things that people don't feel that great about buying, because it's kind of like for a what if sort of situation. But it's the kind of thing you really appreciate having had should you lose something, you know, pet, kid, keys, and so on. Now, the only thing is that if you get something stolen and people see this obvious Apple tag, AirTag hanging off it, I mean, what's the first thing that these people are going to remove, right? And toss into the nearby, you know, a passing pickup truck. So just like, you know, they do in the movies. Yeah. So anyone here, any of you guys interested in the AirTag?
I mean, I think it would be a cooler idea, like you just sort of pointed out, if it was like really small and it was almost like a spy thing where you're like, you like hit your TV or something and you tagged it on the back and no one could see it.
So you're talking very much about the Tile system right now, and this is where I look at this and I'm like, this is the first entrant in what is going to be a burgeoning ecosystem. This first device is cool, but the form factor is is neat. It's interesting. It's IP67 waterproof, or water resistant, pardon me. So it'll do 1 meter, 30 minutes. You spill a beer on it, it's going to be fine, right? It's user replaceable battery, which Tile has only just started to get around to, right? They've got the CR, it's 2032 and 2016, I think that they do, and the Pro and the regular size Tiles. Tile does also have a couple of other devices. This is the Tile Slim, and then they've got the Tile. I'm going to call it the Tile Dot. I don't think that's the name of it, but it's just it's the button, and it goes on. And that goes on the back of your TV, and it's black, and it just looks like a nubbin. It doesn't look, very trackery. So
Trackery.
So this thing, I mean, Apple has they've Johnny Ive stylized this. The thing that gets me is obviously like it's all about the accessories. There's the $15 Belkin little strappy thing, and then there's the $500 Hermes baggage tag. Which Tasia, thank you. I was gonna sprain an eyeball rolling my eyes.
Sorry.
I was like, really, we're still on the Hermes stuff. Nobody and honestly, if you're out there buying the Hermes stuff, bless you, because somebody has to. The poor starving folks at Hermes clearly need some customers, but everybody else is buying the same knockoff thing from Amazon. But this you talk like the thing that people don't steal, it goes in there and it's gone. So that for me, I'm looking at this and I'm excited by this because again, the more things that we have in the system, the better. The ultra wideband here is kind of the cool, sexy thing because again, just passing phones are just going to latch onto this thing. The thing that I really liked. So the one feature that I really liked was unwanted tag detection, because we actually saw somebody do this with Tile, which was they grabbed the Tile, they put it on their own account, and then they were stalking someone with it because they managed to either slip it into their bag or put it onto some of their stuff. Apple, if there is an AirTag that is around you, you can basically run a scan with this, and it'll tell you if there's a tag around you that doesn't belong to you. So that to me, along with a lot of their other privacy features, they're thinking ahead here and going, you know what, we're going to protect people. And that was one of the killer apps. I thought that was great.
Yeah, and
one of the other
just also sorry. One of the other things is, it does also feel like, and maybe it's some of the pictures I've seen of it, is that it is kind of designed to be conspicuous. Like maybe the Hermes tag is one thing, so maybe that's also part of my comment about I want it more like a spy thing, like very inconspicuous. But the whole thing is, I have a tag. It's on a red piece of leather attached to my keys, which is almost as big as my keys. So, I mean, I think that's...
And there's no bottle opener built in.
Yeah, exactly. And I don't want to be critical of it because I think they're doing it on purpose. Like, this is supposed to be a thing. So I think they're doing what they're trying to do. The point is, for me, I wouldn't want it to look like that. I want it to be small and out of the way, but that's just my personal taste. And like you say, Gray, this is like Gen 1. Right? Yeah. Like they're tiptoeing into this. They'll have different sizes probably later on. They're trying to make a deal of it and trying to make it conspicuous. So, but I'd love it, but maybe just not this version of it,
Yeah. Can I give you two more little things that I like before just you're going to jump in, but there's two more things I like. One was the pricing, right? $39 Canadian for one, but you can get a family pack for $129. And with that, you get free engraving. You can personalize these things with like an emoji or a thing. That to me it's pretty cool. I'm paying a similar price for my tiles. Where the price balances out is I'm paying for Tile Pro right now, which does things like I forgot this thing at home, which is handy. I walk out without my keys and my wallet all the time. You think I'd get better at this, but I don't. And the second that I leave my house and I get far enough away, it's like you left without your keys, or you left without your wallet. So I pay extra for that. And that's actually built into the core of the Find My system. So that may be one of these things where looking at this going forwards, I may jump in. So,
Tasia, do you see a place for anything like this in your life?
I have Tile, but to be honest, it's one of those things where I'm kind of just like, yeah. Like, it's like you said, I hope that I don't really ever need it. So
maybe leave some of your valuables on your porch and then see if it comes in handy.
I thought you said
that's what I should do. Yeah, right. This is a Corvette. This is a Corvette family. So
sorry.
Come on. So that's what I should do with the Porch Pirates.
There you go.
I'll do it. What was it? $15 US. I'm gonna put it in a box with a bunch of kitty litter.
Yep.
Let that Porch Pirate take it.
One of the cool things about the integration with the software integration is, from what they were showing in the Apple event, is that using the ultra wideband, it will show arrows on the screen of your phone to help you find the device. Because half the time, the device is actually just somewhere in our house. And sometimes we can get our devices to make a noise or whatever. And I believe these will make a noise as well.
Well, unless Tristan, you by accident leave your iPad in a Denny's late at night.
I can never see that happening.
No. So the one thing I will say is Tile's close to this, right? It's got concentric rings that basically they narrow down the closer that you get to it. This, though, basically, because it gives you an arrow, it gets you closer and closer. You kind of get in the area with Tile, and then you're playing the sound, and you're going, okay, so which pocket of this jacket did I lead into? But it looked like with ultra wideband, you're getting down to like, maybe about 6 inches away from where this thing is. And so that to me is that's a nice little upgrade from what I've got. So I'm going to order some of these, and I want to run them kind of like in parallel to see, is the experience better on one than the other? Because again, I love my Tile. You'll pry my Tile Slim from my cold dead hands. But I'm curious to see for the finding experience, which of the two is better.
Exactly.
Graham, I want to follow up on that because sometimes the issue with some of the Tile is the accuracy and like the lag time.
Yeah.
So, like you could be searching for something like your wallet or whatever, and it's saying it's pinging from here, but really it's not there, or like it's pinged off the wrong stuff around it.
Yeah.
So if you do a comparison, I'd like to know how accurate and close they get to each other, and like move your shit around too, and then see if it still understands where it went.
I want to see the AR if someone's carrying it, because then if you can, if someone's taken my wallet and I can kind of like, hey, that's my wallet.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's how I confront people. Hey.
So again, for those times that we may misplace things outside of our homes, it'll be really interesting to see how powerful the network of Apple devices around the world will help, because guaranteed there's way more Apple devices than Tile devices. We talked about that previously. And I can attest to the power of the Find My network. Even in its previous generations, Will, of course, had to bring up the Denny's situation, but we were out one night and I had my iPad with me and I'd gotten onto their Wi-Fi. I think I also have LTE versions of the iPad as well. So, because I lost an iPad before that I wasn't on Wi-Fi and wasn't on cellular, wasn't a cellular version, and there's no way to track it down. But there's one that I left at the Denny's that night, and to be fair, we had developed a long and loving relationship with some of the servers at Denny's, so they were looking out for us. But I got home, I was like, crap, where's my iPad? Boop, 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 look up on my phone. Oh, there it is. And yep, that's at Denny's that we were just at. It was just 2 in the morning or something. So call them up. Hey, Simeon. Hey, how's it going? Yeah, it's me. Can you look over by the claw machine? Yeah. I put my iPad down there, I think, when we were BSing about something or another, or trying to find, maybe get a stuffed Pac-Man out of it. Yeah. Oh, you see it? Great. We'll swing by tomorrow. Thanks. That's how it went down. So, if this could, if car keys, my wife had her car keys stolen out of a friend's car a couple of years ago. This could help with that, because the keys weren't any use to anyone, and the fact that there was a tracker on them, people might not remove it. You could actually, if you could scratch off the Apple logo, that might help as well, just to make it a little less obvious.
I can guarantee you that we're going to see some key fobs that come out that look like just a regular, a Toyota key fob, and inside your little Apple tag goes in. Make it look as innocuous as possible, right?
Yeah, exactly.
A Chromecast sticker, and no one's going to want to steal it.
But it would be nice to have those keys, because there was a key fob for one of our cars on there. It was in a different municipality, so we're not in danger. But the replacement cost, a couple $100 for a key fob. So the Find My network could have helped us there, but it was just a couple years too late. Anyhow, so again, quick rapid fire before we wrap up. If you had to rate this selection of products brought to you by Apple to this Apple event on a scale of 1 to 10, I'll give you a moment now to think about that. Think about what might appeal to you, what could fit into your life on a scale of 1 to 10, starting with Will.
I think some of these products are great. It's not fully what I was looking for. I'd probably give it a 7.5. I think there's still a lot of great stuff in there, above average. And I think it's a little lower because I'm not quite on the iMac. I love some of the other stuff, especially, with the iPad Pro. I think it's really cool. the Apple TV, I'm all in. So 7.5, 8, somewhere in there.
Gotcha. Graham, great.
I've got to say, iMac is a 10 for my parents. The iPad Pro, it's going to be about an 8 because I think I'm going to end up with an iPad Air, but we'll see. Looking at the Apple TV, that is an 11 for me for the remote alone. And AirTags, I'm gonna say that's a 7 right now until I can see what's coming next.
Gotcha. How about you, Tej? I think you're the most skeptical of us all.
I was gonna say, oh man, don't come to me because it's gonna be low.
You can give
I'm
a single
gonna do
number
Will
like
did.
Will, or you can go into detail
Yeah.
like Gray. Your choice.
I'm gonna do what Will did. Overall, I'm gonna give a 7 out of 10 because the iMac brings it down for me. Same with the purple colored iPhone. It's just nonsense.
Oh,
I should
it's
deduct another
gorgeous.
point for that. I should deduct another. You go throw this into an event. You should be ashamed of yourself.
That's exactly what they did. They're like, oh yeah, by the way, the purple iPhone.
By the way,
There it is. Yeah.
So, but the iPad Pro is cool. Price point. So I'm just gonna give everything a 7.
All right.
Sounds good. And for
TJ?
myself, I want AirTags. I want the new Apple TV. I like the iPad Pro. I'm not sure if it would fit into my life and budget at this point. Same with the iMac. Like I want those both, but so I'm probably like 50% on the actual realistic to get. But in terms of the appeal, I'll maybe give things about an 8 because I got to be higher than Tej, obviously. Like I was going to say a 7 initially, and then she brought it in at that. I was like, well, I guess I like it more than Teja, but I'm not going to buy all those things. So again, math is hard, guys. But I think overall we're just like above average. But I think there's more to come. There's some things that we didn't see. We didn't see an updated Apple Pencil. We didn't see an updated iPad Mini, which was also rumored. And it's going to be a little wait for the higher end iMacs, perhaps an iMac Pro someday, the higher end MacBook Pros. So there's still more to come. And we'll see what happens in WWDC, the Worldwide Developers Conference in June. And maybe we'll have another Momentous Live special edition then. So to follow us, check out Momentus.tv, Twitter.com/MomentusTV, Instagram.com/Momentus.tv, Facebook.com/MomentusTV, and all the other socials. Google us sometime. Thank you for tuning in to Momentous Live Special Edition.